Hey everybody, it's Sambarina again, and I wanted to talk about religious traditions and when as a society, especially in the United States, are we going to draw the line here? I really think a lot of good points have been brought up about the ridiculous nature of how religious beliefs are being observed in our governmental policies, including the fact that these policies affect everybody, including the non-religious, secular like myself. And especially how the candidates for the GOP are just proud to tout the fact that, we are basically showing religious bias in government policymaking. It isn't so much that they're proud of it, it's the fact that in reality it is occurring in our government policies. I mean, you had Santorum insisting that abortion is only legal because the Supreme Court said so, but the Bible clearly states. Oh, this makes my brain hurt. The Bible doesn't actually state that it's illegal to abort a child. That's what's really funny about that fact, because from the 1600s to the 1900s, abortion was actually pretty much an open, accepted thing in colonial society. You didn't make a big, haha, I went and got an abortion notice to everybody, but you could go and obtain one as necessary. But he's sitting there going on about how it's only legal because the Supreme Court made it so. And last I checked, that the Supreme Court interprets the law and rules accordingly. They didn't make the law. They just interpreted the law. And they decided that abortions are not illegal. And to their credit, they did put limits on abortion. And I really do not have an issue with limits. I'm not religious, as I said. I'm very much an atheist. I do believe life is precious to some extent. I do have a moral compass. I don't think aborting a child that is viable outside the womb is fair. That's disgusting. I don't agree with that either. Unless, somehow the person did not know they were pregnant, and it is possible. I know there's some women out there who go, how do you not know? It is possible to not know you're pregnant, especially if you have fibroids. So get an education. But I think Santorum's pretty much a nut job. I mean, he would rather I stay at home in the kitchen and cook meals and breed without any restraint, regardless of the financial, let alone physical stress it would put on me as a person. I mean, it's like, geez, what are these voters coming to? Especially in Minnesota and Missouri. You people have lost your mind. And then you have the religious traditions of mutilating our children, via circumcision. And I am including females in the United States. It does happen. And it's all under religious pretext. I mean, I was reading through in 10 different countries, including the UK, France, United States, Germany, Sweden, Australia, New Zealand. Very, very, these are not third world countries. These are up there with the rest of us. They even agree circumcision is not necessary. But I will have to admit, out of those 10 countries that I read about, 3 of them, including the United States and the UK, were too scared to have some balls put on the line and say, hey, this isn't necessary, which they do say. But they go, we're not going to tell you what to do. We don't want to infringe on your beliefs and your rights. And that's just like, what the hell does that tell you? What happened to protecting our children? And I'm sorry, I find that circumcision 9 times out of the 10 is forcing your belief system on your child. That is not a freedom of religion. You are forcing it on them without a choice because they're a minor. You're making a decision in their best interest spiritually. But you're not thinking about who they are as the individual when they are grown and what they might possibly want to believe. And believe me, a lot of kids nowadays, they rebel. And they're going to continue to do so. So anyway, my idea is, why don't you just let them decide for themselves what they want to believe? I mean, I know it's impossible to create an environment that is completely devoid of your influence on your child's persona. I get that. But I don't see why you can't foster an environment of open opinion in practice. Who am I to tell my son that I had their foreskins chopped off because that's what everyone else was doing, or that's what my personal cultural belief was? How does that make it right? I still don't understand that. To mutilate their bodies in the name of what I personally believe in, I don't think so. How about if I let a mole literally suck the blood off the tip of a newly forced wound, on their penis, all in the name of God? And people, that happens every day to an infant somewhere. And that's a whole nother video I will get into. And if you don't believe me, just type into Google penis sucking Jews. And that's not a racial slur. This is just what these moles do at some of these circumcision celebrations. But anyway, let's go a little further than just the whole circumcision issue, because I know some people are still believing that it's medically cleaner and necessary to do this to your child, just like they believe the earth is only 12,000 years old. So it's like it's like talking to a wall. But let's talk about the same thing. What about if you decided to pierce your daughter's ears while she was an infant? What if your daughter grows up and believes that such piercings were a desecration to her body? You can't ever make her whole again. You caused her bodily injury, contrary to what she believes in. That's why I will not let my children do these things to themselves until they are old enough to understand what they are doing and they can take care of it themselves. If they really want to go and do that to themselves, then that is their belief. They're welcome to do so. But I'm not going to make that decision for them. And here's a fun fact. Did you know that here in the United States, female genitalia, as far as circumcision, mutilation, it's not illegal? Surprise, it's not illegal. As long as the female is over 18, it can be done. Now you're thinking, what 18-year-old female would want to have her most intimate of intimate places on her body chopped up? How about the 18-year-old daughter of an immigrant who she's only been in the country for maybe 4 or 5 years, and she absolutely explicitly follows what her parents tell her to do? How about the family that aren't immigrants? Their family has been in the U.S. for generations, but they're Orthodox Christians, and this is what they believe. And their 18-year-old daughter, who still lives under their roof, follows their orders, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? She goes and does what she's told based on family-forced indoctrination and belief. Okay? Think of all of this. All in the name of purity. Purity. Religious, cultural purity. I can't believe we're still living in these dark ages. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I live in a secular home. Some of my children do believe in God, okay? I don't have a problem with this. I support either view, whether they believe or don't believe, as long as no one's being overly aggressive. Basically, the children that I have that believe in God, they're welcome to pray. They can attend church. They can share in fair debate. Fair debate, meaning we're not doing name calling, we're not bashing self-esteem issues, we're not being overly aggressively rude to one another. We're trying to have an open-ended conversation. That's fine. But if I hear them walking around the house and they're like, "You're so going to hell," or "Mom, you're having all these problems because, you're not one with God," I'm not going to have that kind of emotional abuse in my home, because that is what it is. How dare you to tell me that I'm not good enough without an idol in my life? That's self-esteem bashing, emotional abuse if I ever saw it. And we draw the line there. I don't walk around the house telling my kids, "Well, you're an idiot for believing in Jesus. You're an idiot." I don't go telling my kids, "Well, I'm sorry, you believe in a zombie rose from the dead." I do not do that to them, okay? The internet's a little different, and they're warned. If you're going to come into my realm on the internet, on my page, you're not going to like what you see. That's why I don't visit your pages, because I know I won't like what I see there. We're allowed to acknowledge one another's beliefs without bashing each other over the head with them. It is possible. And I take pride in the fact that I'm letting them have that freedom in my home. We just agree to disagree. It's not rocket science. And I mean, right now, I look at my daughters and my sons, and I realize we all have limited abortion rights. And like I've said, I really don't see a problem with this. But just like my views on mutilation, there's a line to be drawn on how far as a parent we should be allowed to go in decision making for our child. But I don't see how we need to take it overboard and make contraception so hard to obtain, There's common sense that needs to be involved here. I find that religious cultural beliefs blur the line between observance of life and general idol worship. I understand that many feel life is sacred in all its forms, including as just the ingredients of egg and sperm, but that's not a universally accepted belief. And I just think when you have a line of belief coming about contraception that's so culturally and religiously ingrained, I don't think it has a place in a government, especially one that governs an entire nation that doesn't even follow the same belief system to begin with. Um, we're a nation of many beliefs. We can't impose these things on people federally. Now, I say if you really just have to go there, leave it to the states to decide. And then they can reap the consequences when a large majority of their residents, they're going to move to a different state that's more ideologically in line with what their own beliefs are. I mean, ultimately, it'll be a losing battle for this whole religious takeover on a state level. And I know that's why right now I'm being federally bullied, not state level. If everything was state level, life would be easier because, I'm sorry, y'all would lose. The Bible Belt would again be poorer than like places like New York, Washington State. You know, it would be a beautiful thing because then maybe it would help show that just because we have beliefs doesn't even need to impose them. And when you impose them, this is what happens. Your state goes into an absolute famine, dry spell. I mean, you're not going to get anything out of it. Ohio sure as hell not doing very good. But that's my thought. I mean, I know it was kind of random today. It was hard to keep on one line with it. But I just think that there's a point that we have to draw the line with religious practices, observances, beliefs, and they do not belong in government federally. And I think that if we let people experiment with putting their beliefs in the state level of government, and they have in some states, and they're finding that they're losing, like the Personhood Act. Every state they put it on the ballot for. A bunch of people go, let's vote on this. Let's say life is sacred from the moment of conception, and that means there's no vitro fertilization, no contraception allowed. Hell, they'd probably even disallow rubbers, for Christ's sake. And you know what? In all of those states that were very, very Bible Belt, the Personhood Act failed every time because people do have enough sense to say, hey, these are personal beliefs. We can't dictate this to everybody. It's just not right.